We were in California, I remember that explicitly. Ray had this idea, and he got a bunch of us together, some handlers, and I know it was Marge, Gwen, myself. I think Bonnie was involved. He sat us all down, and he told us about this event he wanted to incorporate into the National. And it would involve the top breed dogs in the country. Because those top breed dogs from all over the country probably didn't get a chance to compete against each other. And the only ones that were the top dogs were the ones that were financed by people that could afford that. So how can we make all these dogs come together and pick the best of them, even though it wouldn't have been the top dog? This was Ray's idea, and we just fell in love with it. We got together and we rehashed how you would do this, the point system, blah, 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 and it took a couple of years. But in the beginning, the standard became the standard for the top 20. Mm-hmm. And each dog would be judged according to the standard. So many points for the head, so many points for general impression, so many points for this, all the way down. That was the number one outcome of that. How would we judge them? And then he would have a tablet for each judge. How would we choose the judges? It couldn't be just one judge judging all these dogs. No, we had to do categories. We had the breeder judge, the working dog judge, and the all-arounder. We would hope the breeder judge would be consistent with the breeding standard. We hoped the working group judge would be focused on the attributes of movement and so forth. The real working dog. Yeah. And the all-arounder would be like the pretty. That's the way that came around. And then our next concept was, well, how do we do this in the ring? We had 3 stations. We had each judge at each station, and they would rotate. The exhibitors would rotate around. The point schedule would be how many breed points each dog had for 1 year. And we made up the year for the top 20. We called it the top 20 year. And somebody would be calculating all the points of these dogs and who started doing the calculations. But it wasn't Ray. We loved Ray. That was the beginning, and every time we met, we kind of combined everything that we talked about. The stations, the judges, the points, the scale. But how do we put all this together? So we decided, as a group, it would be 20 dogs. So that's how the top 20 came around. They were the top 20 dogs in the country. Okay? So somebody out in the Midwest would have a score of maybe 100. Yeah. Somebody on the East Coast would have a score of 500. So it became a good mix of dogs. The first couple of years, it wasn't the top dog in the Doberman in the country that won in the top 20. And that's what his heart wanted. The whole thing was worth it for all of us if that came out, because they were being judged the way they should be judged in the ring. But the event became such a popular event. The first couple of years were a little dicey because it took so long. We hadn't formed in our mind how we could do it with each judge counting and so forth. The breeder judge may have been faster than the all-rounder judge or whatever. So we had to wait, and one exhibitor came in at a time. Came and went and moved around to the stations and out of the ring. So you know how long that took. We always had between 15 and number 20, that many dogs. The points were all compiled by another person. And I think Ray did most of that, I'm not sure, and had somebody that wasn't on the committee because some of us on the committee were exhibitors. So we got the idea that maybe because we had 3 judges, we could do 3 Dobermans at a time. We would bring them in the ring in 3s. One would come around, go to the first judge. The next one would come around, go to the second judge. Third one would come around, go to the third judge. And they would be judged by each of the judges. And then when they finished their particular dog at that time, they would sit down, and then the announcer would know that that group was done. And then they would go out the ring, and then the next group would come in. And Gwen and I were the group people. They would get them all organized to bring in the ring and yell at everybody. And
they created terror amongst these top elite Doberman handlers. So much so that Andy Litton will still not be a second late to the handlers meeting. And when people are, he goes, "You didn't mean so much trouble." And we're like, "Yeah, Terry's not here." She's like, "I don't care. She can see."
We had to. We wanted them on time so that people wouldn't get tired of waiting for all of these. And then, of course, at that time, we, the top 20 people, had to make the money for the event because we weren't part of the DPCA at that time. So we had raffles and everything else, and that had to be going on, and there was a lot of stuff going on. Right. That's how it began. That's how it was in the middle part, and it became such a routine. Everything just went beautifully, right?
Yes.
After those years when we got everybody was in the ring, the judges knew what they had to do, the people giving out the ribbons knew what they had to do. It was like clockwork. It ran beautifully.
And then that set a precedent for other clubs, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. There isn't, I don't think there's a breed club. It started with, I think the Malamutes did the first, the Boxer people and the Great Dane people and so forth and so on. To me, it was as beautiful an event as going to Westminster. It was a heart thing for me and for Gwen. I know we lived for that, and we took a lot of pride in it. We took a lot of responsibility for it. If it wasn't going right, we had to do something to fix it. We all had this special bond because we wanted this to be a secretive event. We didn't want anybody to know who the judges were until the night of the top 20 and when the catalogs came out. You know, and people would always say, "Who is this?" You know, because you're on the committee. You know, we never knew.
Yeah.
We never knew because we were competing.
Wow.
We didn't want to do that. We wanted to compete with everybody else. It was fun, though. We really enjoyed doing it. We loved the fact that it was an honest event and had always been, in our minds, an honest event. Bringing tears to my eyes. The year that I quit the top 20 was that was worse for me than giving up handling or giving up judging. I was giving up my heart.